This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. Welcome to Fortress Fiction episode 11. Join me as I talk about Hatchet. Hatchet by Gary Paulson, published in 1987, a very good year. After a plane crash, here's the synopsis. After a plane crash, 13-year-old Brian spends 54 days in the Canadian wilderness learning to survive with only a hatchet. That's it. That's the book. And that's exactly what it is. There's no secret there. There's nothing fantastical going on. There's no science fiction plot. There's nothing, no murder mystery, nothing. It's just him trying to survive in the wilderness, him trying and succeeding to survive in the wilderness for all that time with this hatchet. And it's pretty fantastic. So here we go. Does this book belong in the Fortress Fiction and a Place of Honor? I would say yes, but. And the but I will explain as I talk about the book in a very off-the-cuff manner, but definitely it's something I would suggest that young readers read and even older readers. It's a very good book, very well written. So here we go. The thing about Hatchet is, while it is a good book and it has very good things in it, it was entertaining, it was well written, it was entertaining, and what else? It was well written, it was entertaining, and it's about resiliency. I don't really know that there are strong themes here. I definitely think this is something that would be good and instructive and inspirational for somebody to think about life in a different way, because Brian is forced to think about life in a different way. He's forced to see beyond his petty concerns. He even kind of reflects and thinks that he's been reborn, and it's true to an extent, and well, it's very true. And the surviving the wilderness and going back to normal life affects him in a way that seems to be true for the rest of his life. And because we get a little thing at the end that I don't know what it's officially called, perhaps a coda, although I don't know what that means, and I don't like the way that word sounds. And when I've heard people use it, it's very pretentious and very pretentious circumstances, or it's a very pretentious way it's said. So I feel a little awkward about using it, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be using it, but I am going off the cuff here. So in the coda, or in the ending thing that tells you kind of what happened with him after he gets out of the situation, it's interesting because it talks about how this seriously affected his life, and it almost makes you think that what we're living in right now is not the normal state of life, and it's not natural, and there's something wrong, and there's something deficient, there's something that we lose by having all this safety and security and wealth. And there is a topic of wealth that comes up, which is food security, basically. Brian is in a place where he feels wealthy when he has an abundance of food. And late in the book, that's food that he finds that's, like packaged, manufactured, processed food in a survival kit. And before then, it's food that he's gotten for himself and that he's used his know-how and his skills to go ahead and store food up for himself. And it's very interesting. The book is, I don't know, it's kind of provocative in a way, but it's also very like simple and very, I don't know, it's funny. There's the reason that Brian is on a plane going towards Canada is because I think he's a New Yorker, and I believe he's a New Yorker. Anyway, he's flying up to Canada to visit his dad. His parents are divorced because his mother, sorry, there's infidelity in the marriage. The father doesn't know about it. Brian knows about it, but like I said, his father doesn't know, and he never tells him, which is something we learn in the book. And he keeps thinking back on his mother with love and tenderness, but also with frustration and anger. A lot of frustration and anger towards the man as well, the other man who's involved. And Brian sees them in a public place, obviously not acting like they're best friends, acting like they're something else instead. And he knows that's the reason why his mother's divorcing his father. Now, in reality, he could be abusive, he could be whatever, and we just don't know that. But from his perspective, that's what we're seeing. And it's interesting because this thing about the divorce and the breakup of the family and the marriage is kind of, it's a through line. It kind of has a through line, and it's something that gets used time and again to reflect and almost to show like a benchmark that Brian is in a place where this is still something that's a concern to him. And eventually survival becomes such a serious concern to him. It takes primacy over his thinking about his family and why he's in this situation. And he's no longer mourning or bemoaning the fact that, this has happened to his family or in his family. But it's just a reality that he accepts and he moves on. It's just like the fact that water is wet and he has to hunt for fish and things. It's just something that's true in the world, and he's able to accept that and move on. There's something interesting towards at the end of the book when there's wrap up thing is going on, telling what happened with Brian and his life after he was rescued, which is that he thinks that for a short period of time, it seems as if his parents might get back together, but that never ends up happening, and that's kind of interesting because, in a way, the book is almost saying that life and the world is it's not uncaring or unforgiving, but life and the world will go their own way based on whatever internal logic the operators who are causing things to happen have. And you, as an individual, can either choose to be crushed by that, or you can choose to cope with that and adapt and overcome. And that's really interesting. That's really interesting. It's true. It is true. There's a concept of you have your circle of control, you have your circle of influence, you have your circle of concern, and that the most important thing for you to do as an individual from a survival perspective is think about and manage your circle of control and try your best to influence people around you in your circle of influence. And I can't remember what the other one was I said. I don't know it that well because I'm not like a diehard survivalist kind of guy who's setting up on all this stuff. But it makes sense that you can only control what you can control, and you shouldn't worry about the things you can't control, and you should primarily take care of the things that you have control over. And if you have influence on others to take care of things, you should encourage them to do that as well. But you can't force them because you don't have control over them. And Brian's doing everything he can to survive with what he has in his hand, which is the hatchet. And it's interesting because the hatchet is a gift from his mother, and he wore it at the insistence of his mother before they parted ways when she dropped him off to get on this airplane. And that hatchet that she asked him to wear, that he was kind of embarrassed to wear in front of the pilot of the plane, is the thing that saves his life. But really, Brian is the thing that saves his life. He works with his resources, and he works with his knowledge, and he applies himself in the situation and uses everything around him effectively to survive. And, Brian's only here because of his parents, and his mother, asked for the divorce, filed for the divorce because whatever happened. And she was taking him to the airport and all these things. She got custody, and he was going back and forth with his parents. So it's almost like all these things had to happen in order for the scenario to unfold the way it did, but also everything happened in such a way that everything that he experienced up until this point gave him what he needed, the tools and the know-how to survive in the situation. But he had to have the will. He had to do the work. He couldn't just expect that he would live. And I don't know, it's a really interesting, it's like a thought-provoking book. It could be useful to kids to read this. I think it's useful for older people to read it and to get into that mindset and think about like how harsh and unforgiving the world can be, but also how beautiful it can be, and how your efforts in the world can make the world a more beautiful place for you, at least. And there's like concepts of harmony with nature, and there's concepts in there about teaching yourself to be better, to be more resilient, and to be able to survive in any situation, and what really matters in life, what really has value in life. And I really appreciate that. So let me see. Oh, I have it saved here. I at first thought that Gary Paulson had only written this 5-book series because it's the Brian saga. It's Hatchet, The River, also called Hatchet, The Return, Hatchet Winter or Brian's Winter, Brian's Return, which is called Hatchet, The Call, and Brian's Hunt. And those books span 1987 to 2003, which is a decent amount of time. But there are other books, and these are just some of them. The Mr. Tuckett saga, which is Mr. Tuckett, Call Me Francis Tuckett, Tuckett's Ride, Tuckett's Gold, Tuckett's Home. Then there's the Murphy series, Murphy, Murphy's Gold, Murphy's Herd, Murphy's War, and then co-authored with another author, Brian Burks. He's got Murphy's Stand, Murphy's Ambush, Murphy's Trail. Then there's the Alita's series called The Cook Camp, Alita's Song, The Quilt, and there's a lot more books. Check out the full bibliography linked in the notes. It's a source to a wiki, but it's still reliable. And I think there's dozens and dozens of books there, which is amazing. So you could find this book to read it, and I suggest you do because it's good. You can get it from your library for free. Cloud Library has an Audible or an audio book version of it that you can get for free. If you have an Audible membership, the base level membership, you can get it. It's included. That's how I listen to it. You can buy it from the publisher's website, which again is linked in the show notes. You could get it from Kobo as an ebook or an audiobook, or you can get it from Audible as an audiobook as well. As I'm sure Amazon, you can get an ebook there, or Kindle. I haven't checked to see. I didn't check to see if it's in the Kindle store or not, as like a KDP type of thing, which means it's included with your KDP plan. Or is it KDP? Well, if you've got it, the all you can read Kindle deal, then you know what it's called, and you know to look in there for it as well, which is probably something I should include going on from here. But anyway, yeah, it's a good book. There's a lot of valuable things in it. It's not like a high level thing for Fortress Fiction, but maybe really because it's about fundamentals and it's about the basics of life, and it's about, like, it's not a morality tale, it's a reality survival tale. Maybe even more so, it's valuable, and it's valuable in much better ways, much more applicable ways than like a heroic journey that teaches about the self and morality and making a stand. This is just about being able to stand up on your own, which might be even more fundamental and more foundational, and might even do a better job or serve better as something to function as a foundation in the Fortress Fiction. So definitely, it's a recommend. It's a short book. It's a good book, and I think it has a lot of important things to say. Anyway, until next time, I hope you take care of yourselves and keep reading. I do not know what is coming next in Fortress Fiction. You're going to find out with me at some point in the future. So until next time, folks, take care.
I hope you enjoyed that. Go to mjmunoz.com to leave any questions, comments, or other feedback you might have. There you can find all of my analysis, art, and fiction. I cover books, tokusatsu, comic books, anime, and more. Look around, you're sure to find something else that you'll enjoy as well. This has been a Story Over Everything production.